Hi, everybody. This is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny, corona-filled Colorado. Still in my office, still working hard, although I'm the only one here. So I don't think I'll catch anything in the office and following standard quarantine protocols, farm to office and back. But I did want to make a video today to talk about deadlines and delays and these things. I read some threads on the Reddit, and we're always transparent. We're always open. So I'll address the questions that come up. You see, what is releasing soon is the Byron reboot. And the Byron reboot is the culmination of about 18 months of engineering effort. Let's talk about the history of the project, and we can kind of walk our way to where we're at today and why things have taken so long. Cardano was very honest when it started. We said we're a scientific project, and a scientific project means you do science. And science is unpredictable. It takes time. Today, right now, we have a global pandemic that everybody in the world knows is going to kill millions of people. It's shutting the entire world down. So why don't we have a vaccine? We have several vaccine candidates. Why don't we just go around and just start injecting people by mass with these candidates? Hope maybe they work, maybe they don't work. We see a lot of people running to chloroquine because a single study with 40 people says it has some benefit. Chloroquine is not a safe drug. It can cause quite severe problems for people. Azithromycin treats bacterial infections, has nothing to do with viruses. People cling to hope and they want something now. The point of science is to remove human beings from the process and to follow a systematic way of thinking so that you can resolve problems. Cardano was never a project that signed up to build yet another cryptocurrency. We have them. We have Bitcoin, we have Ethereum, we have EOS, we have IOTA, we have Tezos, we have hundreds of options. If we entered into market and the only thing we offered were smart contracts and a good consensus protocol and a good ledger, we'd just be one voice among the 3,000 that are speaking. And how do we get ahead? Cardano was a project that said it would bear the burdens of scientific due diligence on the entire industry. So we said we will assume nothing. We will start from ground, from first principles in 2015. What is a ledger? What are the accounting models? How do you write a smart contract programming language? What requirements must it have? Now, this process is methodical and slow. Everybody knew that going into it. And we said it straight up, peer review, evidence-based software. And so we started in 2015. It was 2017 before we released the product. Now, we learned an enormous amount in those 2 years. We learned a lot about architecture. We learned a lot about how to write a cryptocurrency. But we recognized that it would be inconceivable to wait 10 years or 20 years for a product to actually hit market. So we needed to put in iteration. We needed to put in the ability to ship products quickly. So we decided to embrace a two-prong approach in 2017. One, we hired a group of people to take a fork of Haskell Bitcoin and put Ouroboros on top of it and build out basically a version 1, similar to what we were trying to do and accomplish with the incentivized testnet. That group of people released the very first version of Cardano, the Byron release, in September of 2017. Now, the hope was that a parallel team could start from first principles and build a perfect cryptocurrency. And that would take 3 or 4 years to complete. So that group was led by well-typed Duncan Coutts and his people, who are among the most skilled engineers the world has. Meanwhile, the other group was led by a firm known as Serakel. Now, unfortunately, not everything worked out the way we hoped. The software that we released in September of 2017 was laden with technical debt, and it had a lot of small design flaws, which at the time we were building it were difficult to catch, but certainly became more than evident as we got closer to the release. So here's what happened. We spent all of 2018, most of that year, trying to resolve and fix something that we assumed could be iterated to a point where it was stable. So this introduced the first wave of delays. Our belief was that we could have put Ouroboros Classic with a delegation system on top of the Serakel code base, while well-typed working with its skunkworks would continue building the evidence-based software version of Cardano, which would be the permanent protocol that would ship in 2020. So what did we do? We started pulling resources from the other team into the first team in an attempt to correct the software, clean up the software. Unfortunately, the software was written in a way that made maintenance of it very difficult. So in September of 2018, we decided to pivot and we said, we're no longer going to try to remediate this software. We valued delivery. So we said, we'll spin up another team. That was the team that I led with Cardano Rust that delivered Icarus to market, which became Yoroi, which is our single most successful and fastest adopted product in our ecosystem, and also fastest built product because we built Icarus in 4 months' time. We'll take that team and have them build a parallel, very agile, very rapidly produced version of Cardano so we can replace what we were planning on doing with Sarakel, so we can bring things to market faster. Now, that team was successful. In 2019, we shipped the incentivized testnet, which if we were just another cryptocurrency would be Shelley. It's stable, it's decentralized, it has hundreds of operating nodes, its network uptime is over 99% at this point, it's secure, it's working well. It's very performant. In fact, we have a path to over 1,000 transactions per second with the incentivized testnet as it stands today, in market today. That product is running today. It's not just another wallet. It's a full cryptocurrency. If we wanted to call that Shelley and put Shelley on it, it would deliver the promise of Ouroboros Genesis, our wallet backend, and all the other things that we've spent years building. But we have committed ourselves as a project, and we made a social contract with our community, with the scientific community, that we would follow an evidence-based approach, which is why we're working on the Haskell side. And it takes a bit more time. Now, these people didn't sit on their shoes for years. They worked thousands and thousands of commits every week, months and months and months and months of hard work writing specifications. Sprint after sprint, release after release. You can see this code. There's no trust Charles Hoskinson here. It's in our GitHub repositories. You can physically see a chain of custody of developer after developer, commit after commit after commit, and the dozens of repositories on our GitHub publicly there. And you can see that that software has evolved from a proof of concept to a production grade piece of software. We are not Cardano. We ship every single week. Every week, the incentivized testnet ships. We cut releases all the time, usually 2-3 a month for the wallet backend. Daedalus cuts releases all the time. And even the Cardano node, which is being built with evidence-based software, has been maintaining a bi-weekly release cadence. So we are now in a position where we've moved beyond the slow waterfall processes of formal methods, which have historically laden the industry for 40 years, and moved it into a rapid release cycle. No other software company in the world has done that the way we have done it. And we are getting to the end of an era. The Byron reboot isn't just another release. And that's what's going to happen is when we release it, all of our critics are going to say the Byron reboot is just another release. It's just another thing. It's not. It's the culmination of 18 months of hardcore work, completely rebuilding Cardano from the ground up. And then at that point, we are masters of that code. And every 2 weeks we can add to it. There are no more gigantic monolithic releases. We had to rebuild everything to get to this particular point. This was never the original intent. Our hope was that we'd have an iterative code base, and at some point at the very end, we'd hard fork to the evidence-based code base, and that code base would be the one to ride for the next 50 years. Unfortunately, the first attempt didn't work, but that didn't slow down or stop the second attempt, the evidence-based attempt. And Byron is that attempt. That Byron reboot is going to be the biggest release we've ever done as a community, as an ecosystem. It's built with evidence. It's built with quick check. We found hundreds of bugs using formal methods that we were able to resolve before we released it. This is the point of what we've done. Now, in terms of when it's going to release, imminently. Like very soon. I promised the community that Aparna is going to announce that, but it's now at a point where features are not being added. We're just resolving bugs and pulling all three pieces together. Daedalus, the wallet backend, and the node, and those pull togethers are successful. We're able to restore wallets. We're able to send transactions. We're able to process blocks. So all the things on our checklist that we need to do, we're able to do. So now it's just a question of when does Aparna feel comfortable to do that? And that's imminent, very soon. At that point, everything thereafter is no longer a monolithic release. There is no waterfall anymore. It's gone. It's dead. It died a year ago. The problem is there's latency in these things. For example, today we have vaccine candidates for coronavirus. And no matter how bad the world wants it, there's a process that has to be followed. And you can speed that process up a little bit, but we're still only going to get a vaccine in 2021, despite the profound economic consequences of that reality. And that's the fastest it's ever been done. Similarly, there was latency in the processes and the procedures that we adopted. And that latency we weren't meant to feel because we were supposed to have a different code base to work with. It didn't work out. Now, if we compare that with our competitors, they've had a litany of issues. Major hacks that have lost hundreds of millions of dollars. Some networks have had to shut themselves down. The fact that they can makes you think, well, are they really a cryptocurrency or not? And there have been years of delays in major projects throughout our space, from F2 to Filecoin and so forth. The problem is that the end user usually does not see the product until you get to where we're at today, Byron Reboot. That would be the entry point. And then when we talk about Shelley and Basho and Voltaire, that's new stuff to them. You guys got along right in the beginning, right when we're talking about the science, right when we're an R&D project. And every single major company, Samsung, Microsoft, Google, Apple, they have tons of R&D that they do. And that R&D is plagued with delays. It took 10 years to bring Natal to become Xbox Connect. It took about 8 years for the HoloLens to become a beta product. The LiDAR that's inside Apple's new phone coming out, that LiDAR took 6 years of development before they could actually bring it to the iPad Pro. You don't see that. You don't feel that. You don't start day one when they're talking about LiDAR. You see it when Tim Cook goes up on the stage and says, we have LiDAR now in our phones. Whereas today with us, you saw it right in the beginning when we were talking about it, right when we were writing the very first papers. And then demanding, where is it, where is it, where is it? And I keep coming back to the vaccine research because it's the closest analogy. This is the first time the world gets to see the wizard behind the curtain. They get to see the scientific process in action. They get to see what it actually takes to deliver something based on evidence to market. And no matter how bad the world wants it, they're not going to get it until it's done. And it's the same situation for us. But here's what happens. When it's shipped, it changes everything. The world gets to go back to normal in the case of the vaccine. For us, it means we succeeded in the most significant scientific and research project in our space's history. Everything about this project has been carrying an enormous burden on its back. Even Haskell itself, we had to make better. We had to correct bad libraries. We had to work on cross-compilation so Haskell could easily compile the JavaScript and WebAssembly. We had to find ways to get Haskell to play nice on Windows, which took 2 years of effort. This was a colossal effort. And the people working on this are spending the best years of their careers. Do you think that they want to wake up and say it's just another project? Their reputation associated with a failure? No. If you look at the commits, if you look at the dedication, you look at the things that we're doing, you see the passion, the excitement. You see people working on the weekends. You see people working on holidays. So we as a community have held together. And another important thing is in November, outside of IOHK Emergo and the CF, there was no one in our community that knew how to operate and run Cardano as a network. Now we have thousands of people just 100 days later in our Telegram channels who actually understand how to run the software and independent of our organizations actually run the ecosystem. We have hundreds of stake pool operators. I asked the stake pool operators to make videos. They're coming in every week. Great videos, everyday people, stay-at-home moms to technologists, big operations, small operations. They know how to run our software now. And if we ever went away, they could actually run the network. That's called decentralization. This was not the case 100 days ago. And 100 more days, how much more decentralized do you think we're going to be? We will have smart contracts. We will be fully decentralized before the end of this year. We will have governance before the end of this year. And our network will be quite scalable before the end of this year. These are the fruits of years of scientific research. Our critics never mention a single one of our papers. A, because they can't understand them. And B, they tell a story of people who are very disciplined, very systematic, working every single day very hard to try to do something different. That's the key word here, different, new, exciting. It took years of effort for Bitcoin to be constructed before anybody ever saw it. And we've been building it out in the open, Cardano, for everybody to see, taking brutal criticism along the way. Everything we do. For example, videos were made when we released the incentivized testnet saying, that's just Cardano. Only 5 people are working on it. Every other developer was totally ignored. Then one of our community members unfortunately said things like, the testnet is wrecked. It's not working very well. And it's true. It wasn't a very stable testnet when we first released it because it was an alpha product. Today, right now, it's 99% uptime. The product is working great. Things are wonderful. People have a much easier time running it. No one talks about it anymore. And now, of course, our critics ignore that testnet and the success there and the decentralization we've gained. And they've now pivoted back to the Haskell side. They will never be fair. They will never be honest. They will always say we're just a wallet. They will always say we're nothing. Because at the end of the day, their definition of success is the market cap high or not? If it's high, everybody's with us. If it's not high, we are a scam and a failure, and every single thing we have done is meaningless. Here's the reality. Those people are going to be gone in 3 to 5 years. They won't exist anymore. They'll go on to something else. Maybe they'll go and troll the next Game of Thrones, or maybe they'll go and become Rick and Morty fans. Who the fuck knows? I don't care about them, and I didn't build this product. I didn't start this ecosystem for them. I built this product to build something that would be around in 50 years. And so we have laid all the foundations and the seeds. Cardano permanently lives in the academy. Cardano permanently lives in the evidence-based software community. We have revolutionized every single component of our system, from how assets are issued to how our accounting model works, to how DSLs are integrated into our system, to how smart contracts are put into the system, to how our consensus protocol works. We solved proof of stake. It's not a trivial thing. It was the single hardest problem in our industry. We solved it, and we solved it in a 5-year time frame, which is a remarkable thing. We also figured out how to scale as far as we want. If we want to get to 1 million transactions per second, we can get there. We figured out how to do it. This was not a trivial thing. We did these things, and we did these things with principles. We did these things in the academy. We did these things through the peer review process. You do not have to trust me. The papers are there. They're open. They've been sent to conferences and accepted, which meant that they have merit, that people said these are worthy of the academic body. You can just trust the citations themselves. If you Google Ouroboros Classic, you'll see over 700 plus citations. The same for the GKL model, which is the foundation of the many things we've done. Our competitors are citing our papers, which meant there's something of merit there. It's worthwhile there. That means something. Those are the foundations of a decentralized society. And this is not easy. It's not something that you can just wave your hands and it magically materializes. You have to think not just about how do we get the code out now. You have to think about how do we build a process so the code will always get out. Even 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when the custodians are long gone. That is far more meaningful. And we've made great progress on that. So Byron reboot is imminent. And then after that, it's iterative, where we've merged both of those roadmaps, the fast roadmap and the slow methodical evidence roadmap. They've become one. And then Shelley will soon follow after that. And then Goguen soon after that, and so forth. These things are getting done. Teams are building in parallel. We are number one for commits last year, and we'll probably be number one for commits this year. But I take great umbrage to people who say, these are just delays are unacceptable. We can't delay anymore. You guys do nothing but delay. If you look at us in respect to our competitors, our industry as a whole, other big companies like Microsoft and, for example, with Windows Vista or Boeing with the 787, these things happen. They are commercial realities when you are working on new protocols, new science, new engines, and you're trying to innovate. The problem is you, the consumer, see it at the end of the tunnel. You saw it at the beginning of the tunnel. And looking at the vaccines for coronavirus, that's the greatest example of seeing it at the beginning of the tunnel. Everybody's going to see it. For example, what if these clinical trials for these vaccines are failures? There's a high probability of that. Many vaccines fail. Look at the malaria vaccines, HIV vaccines, for example. We'd be back to the drawing board. And what does it mean? It means we don't actually get a coronavirus vaccine in 2021. We get it in 2022. Maybe 2023. It takes on average 3 to 4 years. So can we live in a global shutdown for that long? Imagine how much pressure are on those people. But that is the same reality that we live in today with Cardano. You guys are seeing the science real time with the engineering. The good news is the science is done. The protocols are designed. They've been de-risked. We know they work. 5 years of brilliant, incredibly hard, intensive thought has been rewarded with a template for a decentralized society. They're there. And then we had to learn how to write amazing software and bring a great team together in over 20 countries. 100 plus engineers have touched this code in this project throughout the years. Different systems. The GUI system, Daedalus, is a super complicated piece of software built on top of Electron. The wallet backend, written in Haskell, is a very complicated piece of software. I think that team is 8 people. The nodes, Jormungandr and the Haskell node, very complicated, completely new network stack in both cases, Poldercast in one, and 106 pages of Haskell goodness based upon Rena. And again, these things took years to realize and to actually bring to market. Then they had to be tested on billions of potential configurations. Windows, Mac, Linux, all these different versions, all these different hardware configurations, all this different network software. And if it doesn't work for any one of these people, the first thing they do is go to Twitter or Reddit and tell us how it doesn't work for them and assume it doesn't work for everybody. So we had to build processes just like Microsoft, Google, or anybody else who builds software for the whole world to actually figure out how to fix those problems. We had to build a help desk, and we tirelessly sat down and processed tens of thousands of help desk tickets throughout the years, one after another, and tried to find ways to resolve problems for the vast majority of you. And many of you we have. We don't get any credit for that for our critics. So when you say delays, when you say commitments, when you say we're not in this game, we're just going to walk away, go fuck yourself. We're here. We're going to win this, and we're going to ship. And I'm tired. I'm very tired of the constant criticism of this. Every single week we release things. We have been transparent. We make videos. We make commits. You can clearly see the work being done. You can clearly see us building things. You can clearly see releases happening. And here's a newsflash for you. When Shelley ships and Goguen ships, you're not going to see an immediate 50x on the price of ADA. We are in a global depression. The whole world is collapsing in on itself. The Federal Reserve just announced that it's going to print infinite money. There is no salvation here with what I can do. I can literally cure cancer, and the price of ADA is not going to massively go up. So if that is your primary concern, you need to leave crypto. We are here to build the foundations of a decentralized society. We are not here to make day traders rich. We are not here to influence the price of the markets in the short term. We're here to build infrastructure that is as useful today as it is 5 years, as it is 10 years for the social services we need. From whether the Senate wants to use it to vote, to how you register your property, to handling payments on a scale of billions of people, to redefining how transactions work, to the automation of regulation. These are the things that we care about every day. And the infrastructure we are building is here to do that. If you want to be part of that revolution, that's what ADA is all about. It is not here to make people rich. I've said this over and over and over and over and over again, and then people criticize us that it didn't make you rich. No cryptocurrency can. It is a hedge against a failing social system that we are now clearly, because of COVID, seeing for its truth. So things are coming, guys, and they will be released, and they will be released with principles and character, and we will be systematic as we've always been and stoic as we've always been. And our engineers will keep pushing hard, always. Believe that. And I'm going to tell you right now that what we are releasing is new. It's never been done before. We never forked anyone's code. We never took any ideas from anyone else. We started from the ground up and we built up. And you will see 1,000 forks of Cardano, just like you see 1,000 forks of Bitcoin in 10 years because of these ideas. The extended UTXO model alone could bring smart contracts in a responsible way to Bitcoin, and probably will. And the advancements we've made in consensus allow us now to run a global scale system off of 10 kilowatts of power. These are amazing advancements as a result of our scientific research. And we know they work. We've tested them. We validated them. It's just bringing them to market is a difficult proposition because not only do they have to be brought, they have to be maintained, and they have to be run by people who are not us if we are to achieve decentralization. and we're almost there. This is the year where it all comes together. I'm sorry it took so long, but you guys started just like all of us at the beginning of the tunnel instead of the end. You got to see the product in its infancy instead of a mature state. You're not used to that as consumers. Have some bloody patience. And please understand that there are good people who work every single day to solve these things and build these things. And we've been as open, transparent, and honest as we can be about everything. There's nothing to hide here. There's no closed source code. There's no, there's an emergency thing that we can pull out. It's all there. And if you're competent enough to read the code, you'd see it. But there's a competency gap. There's an expectation management gap here. And people get scared and they listen to FUD. Hold the faith. And we'll get this done. We will get this done. And what makes me so proud and so happy is there are many who have. There is nothing in life more satisfying than seeing the young and the old alike unified on a common cause and actually running our software and being parts of our community and evangelizing, explaining. When we fail to explain a paper that came out, we see people in our community explain that, from Kronos to Hydra. When we don't show how to configure something, somebody in our community writes a tutorial or a guide. These are the foundations of a strong community. These are the foundations you require for a community to grow and become something of the scale and size of Bitcoin and eventually of the scale and size of TCP/IP. We have these things here. We have great leadership. We have great people who are resilient and dogged, and they aren't motivated by the whims and wills of daily markets, and they're not motivated by FUD here or this hype here. They believe in what we're trying to accomplish, and these people will become, before the end of the year, leaders in our community. In some cases, given a democratic mandate, in some cases, given funding from the blockchain itself. And these people are the ones who are going to write the wave of smart contracts that make Cardano the top DeFi platform. These are the people that are going to run the thousands of stake pools inevitably, which will make Cardano the most decentralized financial operating system ever conceived. These are the people who will write the next wave of software, in addition to Emergo and IOHK and the other core entities that bootstrap the ecosystem. Those are the things you should care about. The social progress of the system. Software changes, protocols change, releases happen all the time. The minute that we release the Byron reboot, then it's when Shelley. Then the minute we release Shelley, then when Gauguin. What happens after Voltaire? It'll be when's Cardano 2.0. What matters most is who's going to get it done and who's going to execute. And what we have been able to accomplish in these 5 years is we have built a global movement of people unified by their belief that the scientific method is the best method for us to create new protocols, and unified by their belief that you need evidence for the claims that you make, and unified by their belief that the software that we write with principles can actually change the world and want to change the world. In some cases, their local community, in some cases, the global community. And when these things turn on, they actually have a platform for the first time ever that has a shot at doing it. So I respect that people have criticism. There's many mistakes that have been made. There's different architectures we could have chosen, different developers we could have brought in at different stages of the product, different ordering of products that we could have done. And these are things that you learn from and you move on. But all things together, for 5 years we've been here, we've kept together, we've managed to continue executing. We were funded at a significantly lower level, more than 2 orders of magnitude lower than EOS, for example. And yet, despite that, we continue chipping away, and we have honored the commitments we've made. And from the scientific side, and this year we'll honor the engineering commitments we've made. But we cannot, without your help, the community, honor the social commitments, meaning that it becomes a fully decentralized, vibrant ecosystem with millions of people building interesting things. But every time we flip the switch and opened it up for the community to come in and do something, they've done it. We saw this with the incentivized testnet. We will soon see this with Shelley. We will soon see this with the Gauguin testnet. We will soon see this with the Voltaire testnets, and so forth. And whether you're here to view ADA as a development platform, you're here to govern with ADA, or you're here to operate the platform, there are things to do for everybody there. So hang tight, just be patient. Things are coming. Parna at the end of the month will make an announcement. Byron reboot is imminent, And Shelley's not too far off. And you've already seen the evidence of that. Calm down and realize that we've already achieved great things as a project, and realize that our best days are ahead of us and that things will continue to grow and iterate. And also just look at the amazing good progress that comes out every week. You get an ITN video. Every week you get to see releases here, blog posts here, videos here, community members doing things. Every month you're now getting product management updates. You're starting to see the systemization come together. You're starting to see the papers come out with a regular cadence. All those things are just major factors in the fact that we are in a relentless march towards getting where we need to go. So thank you for listening. Again, hang in there, and we will get this done one way or another. Don't lose faith, and don't allow FUD to mess with your mind. Don't allow these crazy people on the internet to screw you over. All they care about is destroying one product so that their product can look good. All they care about is manipulation of the market, or maybe in some cases it's just ego, or they made a commitment, told their friends that this project's not real, so they're dug into that particular position. I don't know their motives, but all I can do is speculate like you can. That said, trust the evidence, and the evidence is clear. We told everybody what we were going to do. Build a project based on science. We did everything in our power to attempt to accelerate that as much as possible. We didn't always make the right decisions, but when we recognized that these were bad decisions, what did we do? We pivoted and changed things. We added new things. We added new teams. We tried experiments. We tried to get things out. But we are locked down to certain design decisions and certain software decisions that we made. And we just have to wait for those decisions to materialize. Once Byron reboots out, that's the last monolithic release. And after that, everything's iterative thereafter. And at least we get a 2-week cadence then. At least we get to see things at a very rapid pace get done. So, these things are coming. Just hang in there and keep the faith. So thank you so much for listening, and talk to you guys soon.